So with Rashee Rice injured and out for who knows how long, the Chiefs will undoubtedly be looking to make a move for a wide receiver before the trade deadline, and in this video, I go over several players that are fan favorites but may not be extremely likely, as well as players that are much more realistic. So let's talk about that in detail, along with Clyde Edwards-Helaire possibly returning soon, and even Kareem Hunt maybe being injured. But first, how about those? All right, before we jump into the wide receiver conversation, I do want to talk about two players that the NFL suspended yesterday, because it's now got people talking even more about Rashee Rice's suspension. Yesterday, it was announced that both Browns defensive tackle Mike Hall Jr. and Bills pass rusher Von Miller were going to be suspended. Mike Hall Jr. was suspended for 5 games, and then Von Miller for 4. And both of these are related to domestic violence charges or alleged accusations of domestic violence. Mike Hall Jr. was arrested on a domestic violence charge in August, but pleaded no contest to a reduced charge of misdemeanor disorderly conduct on September 19th. And he's spent 4 of his 5-game suspension so far on the commissioner's exempt list this season. Then for Von Miller, he was arrested for an alleged domestic violence incident back in November of 2023, but no charges were ever filed. And the reason I bring up both of these guys is because Bills fans, at least from what I've seen online, Bills fans everywhere, are upset by the fact that Von Miller got suspended, but yet Rashee Rice has not yet been suspended. Gee, guys, I don't know. It's almost like critical thinking in 2024 has completely vanished. I mean, who cares if Rice is still in the midst of a criminal trial? Just suspend him. Who cares if the NFL already said a suspension for Rice is coming, but they are waiting to see what happens in the courts before handing out their own consequences? Just suspend him now. In fact, that's actually a good idea. I think Roger Goodell should listen to all these cry asses on social media and suspend Rice right now for about 4 to 6 games while he heals up from this knee injury. That would actually be perfect. So yeah, there you go. Suspend him now, even though it's not going to happen until the criminal trial is finished, and anybody with even half a brain knows as much. But speaking of Rashee Rice, the talk of the kingdom right now is, what on earth are the Chiefs going to do with their wide receiver room now that both their wide receiver 1, Rashee Rice, and wide receiver 2 in Hollywood Brown are injured? We all know that Hollywood Brown could potentially return sometime in December or January, maybe for the playoffs, but Rashee Rice's timeline to return is much less clear at the moment. He's currently getting more testing done, and we may know more early next week or maybe later this week. Apparently, there's reportedly too much swelling to figure out everything or exactly what's going on with the knee, though many doctors are saying, well, hey, the swelling actually kind of helps the imaging on an MRI, at least to see if there is an ACL tear or not. So the fact that they're not yet reporting on an ACL tear could mean Rice did not tear his ACL at least fully. Could be a partial ACL tear or a combination of several other issues, ligaments, you got PCL, MCL. There's a lot going on in there that could be found out later when the swelling goes down. Either way, the belief around the league is that even if the injury isn't season-ending, Rice is going to miss quite a bit of time, potentially even most of the season, like Hollywood Brown. Rice did take to social media today, though, via an Instagram story to let people know that he gets his strength from the Lord. I like SpongeBob too. Shout out to my childhood cartoon. But I have no idea what this really means here, if anything at all. Could be generic, like, hey, God is on my side and we'll get through this no matter what. Or God is on my side and therefore I'm not as injured as I could have been. Your guess is as good as mine. Then Patrick Mahomes spoke with local beat writers today, and per Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest said, hopefully we get Rice back as time goes on, and maybe even Hollywood, and just keep adding to the offense. So it seems like there is certainly some optimism, maybe even just a little, that it's not worst case scenario at this point in time for Rashee Rice. For now, though, Rice is out for the foreseeable future, and with the trade deadline being November 5th, roughly a month away, the Chiefs are, of course, among the top teams involved in anything wide receiver trade related. Thoughts, ideas, rumors, speculations, etc. And that's why from here, I want to talk about all things related to the wide receiver room, who they could potentially trade for, who people want KC to trade for, but it's probably not going to happen, as well as give my thoughts on what the wide receiver room could look like from a production standpoint in the meantime. But before I get to that, you know the NFL season is in full swing when the Chiefs are winning down to the wire, one-score games, and that also means many of you, if you haven't already, will be going to Arrowhead to see the Chiefs win these stressful games live. Well, I'll be there for the Sunday matchup against the Broncos on November 10th with elevated blood pressure all game long, I'm sure. And that's where the sponsor of today's video, SeatGeek, and my special hookup with them comes right in for everyone. SeatGeek's offering 10% off for anyone who uses my code HBTC10 to get themselves some tickets. Oh, and by the way, this offer applies to any NFL game out there, as well as other sports games like MLB, Go Royals, MLS, concerts, festivals, you name it. Code HBTC10 is gonna get you that discount. SeatGeek makes the entire process easy for you, rating tickets on a scale of 1 to 10. Just look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. So hey, take out your phone, open the SeatGeek app up, and add code HBTC10 to your account ASAP, because this offer is only available for a limited time. Lastly, doesn't matter how many times you've bought tickets using SeatGeek before, because code HBTC10 is going to get you 10% off your order regardless. All right, first up, regarding wide receiver trades, is probably one of the least likely to happen, but one of the most fun to think about, and that is Davante Adams. It's been reported that he wants traded, and some, like Robert Griffin III, RG3, among others, said the Chiefs need to go and get him. Well, okay, let's talk about that. Let's hypothetically say the Raiders, of all teams, would be willing to trade within their division to the Chiefs. They most likely would never do this, to be clear, but let's just say they are open to making a trade with KC. Well, they're going to be wanting reportedly around a second-round pick, if not more, and Davante would cost whoever trades for him around $13 million. I'm not sure the Chiefs would want to give up multiple picks, including a second for starters. That's really just probably for a half year of production for Davante Adams. Then, right now, they currently only have $4.7 million in cap space. Now, they can restructure the contracts of players like Jawan Taylor, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce to create over $16.5 million in cap space, according to Chris Clark of Chiefs Corner. So yes, hypothetically, a trade for Davante Adams is possible and would be absolutely incredible, do wonders for the Chiefs offense, but I do find it highly unrealistic. He is 32 years old, but still has some juice left in the tank for sure. But out of all the teams out there right now, Deanna Rossini of The Athletic said many around the league believe the Jets are the team that will get this trade done. They already have nearly $17 million in cap space available, plus Davante has that connection to Aaron Rodgers, who is the obvious quarterback there, so it's probably going to be the Jets. But if it's not Davante Adams going to KC, what about Tyreek Hill? He did say today to the media he wants to remain in Miami, but they're not winning over there. Meanwhile, the Chiefs are stacking up Super Bowl rings. The Dolphins do not have an answer at quarterback right now, with Tua on IR at least, and they are currently the worst scoring offense in the NFL, averaging just 11 points per game. According to Jason from Over the Cap, a team could actually trade for Tyreek Hill, and it would only cost them $1.7 million. Well, that is way more affordable than Davante Adams, but in order to agree to a trade, the Dolphins would have to eat $28 million in dead money for 2025. And if there's any hope that Tua Tagovailoa actually returns from IR this season, I highly doubt they're going to trade Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. Some people have asked me about Waddle. I think both of those rather are highly unlikely. It would be fun to imagine a Tyreek Hill return though, and it would be perfect for the offense. I just don't see this as a very realistic option at this point in time. The one thing that Tyreek has going for him is his familiarity with the offense, and that is something that would definitely be a bonus for the Chiefs. In a perfect world, if you can bring somebody in that already somewhat knows the system, like they did with Juju Smith-Schuster a month ago and Kareem Hunt a couple weeks ago, for example, the learning curve is going to be much less steep, and you're going to be able to utilize these guys in the offense much more quickly. And before I get to some guys that have familiarity with the Chiefs offense, here's one for you. What about the Chiefs trading for DeAndre Hopkins? After all, Hopkins is on the last year of his deal, and the Titans are not playing well at this point in time with Will Levis at quarterback. Well, the Chiefs would almost have to split the difference as far as money goes in comparison to Davante Adams. Adams, again, was closer to costing a team $13 million if they trade for him, but D-Hop would be around $7.2 million at the moment, and by the trade deadline, D-Hop could be closer to the $5 million mark, which, again, the Chiefs could make work financially if they really wanted to make it happen. He would cost more in trade capital, of course, maybe less than Tyreek and Davante, but still more than the rest of the guys I'm about to discuss, and that's another reason why the Chiefs may not trade for a heavy hitter in the wide receiver room. You don't want to give up multiple draft picks when you're paying people a lot of money. Patrick Mahomes, Joe Tooney, Chris Jones, and guys like that. You're paying A lot of money for these guys, and you need to stay young and keep the rookie contracts churning on this roster, which Brett Veach and company have done a very good job at so far. With all that being said, I can't completely rule DeAndre Hopkins out, as he seems like a more realistic option in my eyes than either Tyreek or Davante Adams. From here, though, I want to go over some options that are much more within the realm of possibilities for KC to make a move from both a draft capital standpoint and financial cost. I would start by naming players with familiarity of the Chiefs system. Players such as Demarcus Robinson, maybe, of the Rams. LA is pretty banged up in the receiver room, so they may hold tightly onto him, but they're not playing well, and D-Rob played with KC from 2017 to 2021 and could definitely be an option to bring back for some additional help, and he would know the system pretty quickly. Another former Chief is Byron Pringle. He's currently a free agent, although he had limited production with the Bears and Commanders his last 2 seasons in the league. Not sure that happens, and if it does, probably going to be like a practice squad guy, then you work him in. And again, he's not going to replace Rashee Rice or anything crazy like that. Another guy is a fan favorite, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling, at least in the playoffs. We like him in the playoffs. He's with the Buffalo Bills right now, and I think that is not actually going to happen. The Chiefs going to get MVS. I'm not going to rule it out completely because he does know every wide receiver position on this team and pretty much the entire playbook. Now, these are all fairly cheap options that would get acclimated pretty quickly. I don't know how likely either of them are, but some other options that could still very well be considered are, I've talked about this a couple times, but Amari Cooper of the Cleveland Browns. He would cost a late round pick and financially only maybe between $600,000 and $1 million. Very affordable within the Chiefs' financial realm of possibilities. He also had over 1,000 yards, I think 1,200 yards receiving last season. And even though he's 30 and seemingly struggling a bit with the Browns, who wouldn't struggle on that piss poor team? He's still got some gas left in the tank for sure. So Amari Cooper is a very real possibility in my eyes. I've also seen Deontay Johnson as a guy being thrown around. He has recently been playing well with the Panthers. I'm not sure, though, if Carolina would be willing to part ways with one of their most productive receivers, especially considering they're playing a little bit better right now, and Adam Thielen is out on IR with a hamstring issue. It could be worth Brett Veach making a phone call, though, to say the least. Why not? Say hello. How's it going? Would you like to trade your 28-year-old receiver who's on the last year of his deal and is making a base salary of like $7 million this year? They might say yes, but I have no idea. I don't know if it's extremely likely, but financially speaking, it's a little rich. The Chiefs can make it happen, though, as I said earlier on in this video, especially if they find someone that they think is a great fit and could help contribute to helping them win that three-peat. Now, here's an intriguing one. A little bit of a right turn here, but what about Jalin Hyatt of the New York Giants? Hyatt is a guy still on his rookie deal, being selected in the 3rd round by New York in the 2023 NFL Draft. And this season, he's only had 3 targets, catching 0 of them. Very little production, though last season, he had 23 receptions for 373 yards. And for what that's worth, that's more production than MVS, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, or McCole Hardman had on the team in 2023. He's another smaller, or quote-unquote smaller-bodied guy at 6 foot tall and 176 pounds, a field stretcher type of a receiver, but he does boast an above-average vertical and broad jump, runs a 4.41 40, and has above-average 10 and 20-yard splits. This would cost the Chiefs very little in draft compensation, and again, his rookie deal is pretty freaking cheap and would be under contract until like 2026. And when you consider the future of the Chiefs wide receiver room, Justin Watson being on the last year of his 2-year deals, McCole Hardman, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Hollywood Brown being on 1-year deals, and Sky Moore's future very uncertain based on how he's been doing, it might be worth exploring the options of going and getting a cheap guy with some high potential upside that you're going to be able to have around for a few years. Again, one thing Hyatt would do is be another body that can stretch the field, and this could actually free Xavier Worthy up at times to run more routes in the middle of the field. Then if Juju Smith-Schuster can step up and fill the Rice role, try his best to fill in for the Rice role and help offset Kelsey like he did in 2022, that is a pretty intriguing idea to me. Of course, there's a ton of potential options out there, with more receiving options potentially going to be popping up prior to the trade deadline as teams continue to lose week after week and look to potentially sell. And that's probably a topic for a whole nother video of players from other teams that could potentially be available. But the Chiefs will basically be linked to anyone and everyone from here on out. And trust me, Brett Veach is making phone calls. It was reported by Harold Kuntz of Fox 4 that after Sky Moore dropped that pass on 3rd and 2 last week, they heard a slam on a table nearby, and it was Brett Veach. So Brett Veach is frustrated, And he's going to be looking. Just know this. After Worthy, Juju, and Justin Watson, the depth in that room is indeed questionable, and it's worth bringing somebody in. Who it ends up being is certainly a great question, as there's so many fluid factors at play. And as I said earlier, I do think that Juju Smith-Schuster might be the guy to help offset Kelce in the middle of the field. He's at least the most realistic option in-house to kind of take over for the Rice role. His snap count's going to go up, and I can only hope he's able to produce at even a, 70% level that he did in 2022 with the Chiefs. Worthy's going to be another guy that's going to be counted on to step up, and that's actually why Jalin Hyatt is intriguing to me. If you can get another speedy guy to stretch the field, I think Worthy's route running is good enough that you can not only increase his usage, but you can increase how you use him out there and where you use him out there on the football field. Outside of those two, Juju and Worthy, as well as Travis Kelce being more heavily leaned upon like he was in the Chargers game, it's not ideal, but when you lose these weapons, you got to do what you got to do. You do have Justin Watson as well. Yes, he's solid and a valuable target for Mahomes at times. Then you'll see an uptick in Mecole Hardman snaps, or you could, because as of right now, he's basically been a returner for the team and used very little on offense, even though you could use him as like a gadgety, speedy guy down the field or on reverses, jet sweeps, blah, blah, blah. They just have not done that, and I'm not really sure why. In fact, Sky Moore has seen way more offensive snaps than Mecole, but that is a concern to me. This is year 3 in the system for Sky, and he's still not contributing or making the most of the limited opportunities he's been given. So at this point, why not give one of the 3 practice squad guys, Justin Ross, Nico Remigio, or Montrell Washington, more opportunities on offense in the meantime while you potentially figure out another signing or trade? It's not like a trade is going to happen today. I don't think. And even if it did, it's going to take whoever they get some time to get brought up to speed and learn the offense. They've got room on the active roster as well to add somebody right now. Plus, we know regardless of the severity of Rice's injury, he's most likely going to be placed on IR for at least 4-ish weeks until he can return. Again, we don't know if he's out for the whole season or not, but that's going to free up another spot as well. So yeah, there's a lot that we just went over, a lot of interesting possibilities out there, but I would be curious to know your thoughts. Who would you want the Chiefs to go out and get? And in the meantime, who would you like to see get more playing time with Rashee Rice now out of the picture with that injury? Let me know either way in the comments down below. And before I get out of here, I do need to mention that the Chiefs have designated or opened up the 21-day window for Clyde Edwards-Helaire to return from the non-football injury list. It was announced today by several people. He has 21 days to come back from this, and per Charles Goldman, he has a pretty strong chance to potentially come back and play because in this article about CEH, he says this: to make matters worse about the running back room, Kareem Hunt, who returned to the team just last week, also may be dealing with an ailment after his re-debut in Week 4 against the Chargers. The Chiefs will release their first injury report tomorrow, so look for more details then. But sounds like there could be some sort of an injury. I don't know how severe it is, but going on with Kareem Hunt. And if that's the case, CEH is really going to be needed because you've got him, then Carson Steele, who's been fumbling. He's got a little bit of a fumble issue. And then finally, you've got Samaje Perine, who is fine for a third down back. The Chiefs won't have to make a corresponding roster move because they only have 52 players out of the 53 on their active roster. So that's kind of what's going on. Be looking for that. And then be looking for Kareem Hunt on the injury report. Let me know your thoughts on all that, the wide receivers, then kind of just a little bit of the concern that I just mentioned here at the end of the video with Kareem Hunt. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?